The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
I think I've always believed in the paranormal, but the deeper I get in this field, the more questions I uncover. I started a program called Seeking the Paranormal in an effort to gain insight and dialogue from others interested in the same things as me. And while we've learned a lot together, the questions still remain. So I'm bringing my thoughts to the airwaves, and I've brought along my friends, Adam and John, to share in the fun. Together, we'll tackle the tough topics and debate the evidence as we continue to seek the paranormal.
From deep within the Seeking the Paranormal files, we bring you The Lost Episode. We hope you enjoy what you're about to hear.
Welcome back. Oh my gosh, it just occurred to me. This is episode 20.
20!
Oh.
That's like a milestone. We should get a mug or something. I wish I was 20 again. I don't. Really?
I had
No.
fun in my 20s.
I did.
I was naughty in my 20s.
I was in the military.
Well, I was too. Well,
I wasn't having a lot of fun.
I was fit back then, though. I didn't get out of breath walking up the stairs.
So, episode 20 today, we are going to talk about synchronicities. And this was John's topic that he picked, and I assume it was inspired partially by Hellier.
Yeah. That plus the SPI also did a article on it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was synchronicity. They did an argument, an article on it, and Hellier came out. Look at that.
Right.
Huh.
Or Hellier too.
Well, I did watch the first episode of season 2 today, and I should have counted how many times they said the word synchronicity, because it was a lot. Like, multiple times in one sentence. A lot.
Wow.
I didn't. I'm probably going to have to go back and rewatch. It was basically just a kind of follow-up, or, I don't know, recap a little bit. Nothing really happened. But
Nothing happened in the whole first series either, so.
that is also correct. I did see today on Greg Newkirk's Twitter page I guess one of their drawing boards for season 3.
Oh, wow. They're going to drag this on for a long time, aren't they?
Why not?
Why not?
Well, I don't know. I guess looking at season 1 and looking at the viewers that season 1 had and how it drastically kept dropping every episode, I would think at some point you'd be like, okay, I think this is running its course.
Well, our listeners go down and we're still here, so.
Well, shh, don't tell everybody.
Yeah, but to be honest, we don't have cameramen that drive all over the country to do it. We just hang out and drink Captain Morgan. So, I'd listen to that.
There you go. It reminds me a little bit of, what's that show called? Is it The Legend of Oak Island?
The Curse of Oak
The Curse
Island.
of Oak Island.
Mm-hmm.
Which I was really into the first season. And I understand that it's kind of a real life show, so they can't predict when or if they're ever going to find this treasure. And all of their, previews to their episodes are really exciting because it sounds like this could be the time that they come upon that treasure. And I don't know how many seasons we're in now, but nothing yet.
It's like the old gimmick of, give us $15, we'll send you 100. Oh, there's just a fee, send us one more. Oh, and if you just send us this, then we can finally get it to you.
I don't know how many seasons of The Curse of Oak Island there was either, but supposedly, and I haven't watched the latest ones, but supposedly they found something.
Always found something. I mean, and they did find really interesting stuff along the way that I mean, I don't want to get into that show too much, but, you know, carvings and whatnot that had no business being on there.
My theory is that I don't have to watch it, because if they found anything meaningful, you'll see it on the news way before you see it on the show. So then I tune in and watch the show when they actually find it.
Yeah.
And spend my time less wisely elsewhere.
Well, how are things going for Phantom Science? Have you everything moved over? Got some videos up?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm putting out stuff. I'm prepping really for Edinburgh. There's a bunch of stuff I want to do there.
Cool.
And, that's fine.
The high, I looked it up today. It's 28 degrees.
That's good.
For the high.
That's good.
So by the time the evening hits, it will not be 28 degrees.
Hey.
I will do anything I can
Go
to
big
help you
or
guys
go home.
from the comfort of this house.
Right. Sarah's going to be like, yes, I am sleeping in my pajamas.
Well, the whole thing is, we don't have to sit out in the freezing cold for 8 hours. You do, like, kind of like being back in the army when you go on, like, patrol in the barracks. You do 20 minutes kind of at the barrack, and then go out and do a 20-minute experiment patrol. So, I mean, I got a message that WTF, I'm not going to continue, so I will pull some of the old stuff over to Phantom Science, reincorporate it, and, go from there. But, I mean, we've been playing with some new techniques, new tools. I built a LiDAR this week, which is basically a laser that spins around and then reads what comes back, and it's kind of like a visual radar. So when you hook it up, it's kind of like a top-down view of the room, and it maps out the walls of the room because the light points are bouncing off. But the nice thing is, anything in that room, it'll hit that too. And it's easier to see because if the light isn't going all the way to the wall, you get kind of like this huge shadow on the wall. Yeah. So it's a lot easier to notice if there's something in the room moving around. So
it'd be interesting if you can get that in the SLS camera to correlate.
Yep.
Oh, that'd be super cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, the LiDAR is going to be sitting there while we're doing stuff. So, we'll have that record. So if anything else happens, we can go back and look at the LiDAR or the SLS. And, the aim that we've got is to get as many things taking a reading at the same time as we can. Because one thing's fine, but you can always kind of explain it as a glitch or this or that. You start getting 2 or 3 things happening at once. To me, that's a score. So, that's what I'm trying to get going.
While you were talking, it occurred to me with the other thing I wanted to talk about, but I want to stay with this for a second. So, you guys, I know you probably haven't correlated too much, but what kind of equipment do you guys intend to take with you?
I'm probably going to take the lot, and then on the evening decide how we're going to set it up. So, let's see, there's the LiDAR, there's the SLS cameras, then we've got 3 trail cams that were set up.
Oh, we've got our tubes.
Yeah, I've got, as many magnetic traps as I want to put out, I guess. If I use the cheap way of putting the iron filings in the bag, which is a video I made. So, we got the cameras, we got listening devices, at least 4 of those. Then I've got, I bought this especially for Edinburgh, is the actual convex microphone, kind of like the hear things from far away, which works pretty good. So I'll be taking that because at Edinburgh things always happen.
Yes.
On the other end of the bloody building.
Yeah.
So now I can point this down the hall. And I think that LiDAR has like a 60-foot range, so I'll be testing that. So if we can put that in the middle of a hallway, it'll see up and down the hall. So, just trying to get, when we get something, if we can get it with more than one thing.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So, and I like Edinburgh anyway.
I do too. And actually, I keep going back and forth. I'm like, maybe I'll go for a little bit, but I don't do well when I'm cold. And I start to focus more on that than anything that's happening around me. And I just don't think I would have as much fun.
I got thermals. I ain't scared.
I'm a princess.
So am I. But I'm a princess with thermals when I go there. I got Disney underoos on.
We have driven all the way to Ames before for a football game, and I have decided it is too cold and we have left. So.
Yes. That's happened. Or we sat in the car, in the parking lot, and listened to it on the radio.
Look at that.
Yep.
I'll be like, right, that's it for football games. Oh, wait, I'm not doing that again.
I just drove 2 hours for us to sit in the car. Because it's windy.
You owe me breakfast now.
Yep.
I like to be comfortable. Okay, so the other thing I was going to bring up...
That can't be true.
What can't be true?
That you like to be comfortable. You're an Iowa State fan.
Listen.
Ouch.
Really?
John's mic just got turned off.
I was trying to see if I could find... I think you're actually the one that showed me that Mr. Moon is ill.
I didn't show it to you.
I showed it.
Adam showed it to me.
Yes.
I was trying to find it and I can't find it now.
Technician's assist.
There is a GoFundMe page.
Oh.
Pay for his surgery.
What? Now, come on. He's charging bloody $100 for 15 minutes of
Yes. And I will tell you,
seances.
the saddest thing about that is there was more money on his GoFundMe page than there was on the Granger House Roof Project.
Yeah, and guess what? He's going to be magically cured. Thank you very much for your support.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Surgery went fine. Be right as rain in 2 days.
Ugh. No, he won't. He'll keep milking
So
it.
he did have the surgery already?
I have no idea.
What surgery did he need?
I don't know. That's what I was trying to find.
Common
Do you
sense
still have
transplant.
I don't
It would be
even...
helpful here.
Well, I would love to be helpful, but I don't even remember where in the hell I found it.
I've been too busy drinking.
Well, there's that.
Priorities, young man.
Right.
Priorities.
I gotta keep things straight here. I will try to look it up. How's that?
He's not having a butthole transplant, is he?
I mean, you may be.
Because the butthole might reject him.
Hopefully it's a vasectomy.
He's already got...
Hopefully he doesn't have any more. Good God.
Yeah, I can't.
Can't afford to have any more technicians in this world.
Out of the gene pool!
Right.
Time's up. Get out of the gene pool.
I guess I didn't pay attention. It's a new GoFundMe. I mean, relatively new, though. It's not something old.
I thought you were going to say it was a new sickness that no one's ever had before.
Probably.
That's probably that too.
Well, it was just something that I recently saw, honestly. I'll do some looking and see if I can...
We can post it. So that way our listeners can also give money to the Chris Moon. Oh, I broke a hangnail. I need surgery. Give me money.
Everything grow on toenail. Need to have surgery on my toe.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
what a Dremel's for. Come on.
Somebody probably accidentally cut his hair. Probably what it's for.
Getting hair in front.
He's just figured out he's albino or something.
Albino?
Albinos that like albino.
What? That's good English. Come on.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Albino.
All right. Well, while Adam looks that up, let's give Darren.
Oh,
Turn on.
you're right. It's right. That new director, Quentin Tarantino, instead of Tino, albino.
All right. Let's tell Darren.
Hello,
Hi.
how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay.
Oh, well, we won't keep you too long. What do you got for us tonight?
See, I was thinking of, I've seen it lately on a Facebook Live, and I have to give props to Cherry Capital Paranormal. They were doing scrying mirrors.
Yes.
So what are your views on scrying mirrors?
Black mirror scrying. I can tell you Adam is not good at it.
Nope, I fell asleep.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, John, I'll let you go first.
Honestly, I don't know.
As a side note, he was doing it on a regular mirror,
Oh.
and I know that there are black mirrors out there for that sort of thing.
I've not had much experience either watching people doing it or doing it myself, or personally, from my point of view, I don't see why I would do it, if you know what I mean. And I can imagine that the paranoia factor is going to be huge. So, if you start seeing patterns and swirls, you're going to just start seeing things, especially if that's the whole reason you're doing it. It's already in your head. It's going to come out your head looking at stuff. So, I mean, I'm not going to say no and debunk it all, but me personally, that's kind of not the path that I'd take.
So, Adam and I have a couple different experiences with mirror scrying. The first one was actually at the Palmer House Hotel when we were there with Darkness Radio. They had in a darkened room that was lit only by candles, a regular mirror, like you mentioned, and they told everybody, don't focus directly on the mirror, just kind of let your eyes relax and see if you see anything. And I understand that's where that, pareidolia would possibly come in. But it was interesting the kinds of things that people were coming back and saying that they had experienced in the mirror, from like their face changing, people believing that they had seen other people in the mirror. So it's interesting. It's kind of something I'd like to experiment a little bit further with, although I do think that our minds tend to play tricks on us.
I mean, I've done that when I was a teenager. If someone said, if you stare at the mirror long enough, you'll see a demon.
Yeah.
If you stare at yourself long enough in the mirror, it's not you looking back, but that's just, your mind just playing silly buggers with yourself.
Yeah. So the Black Mirror Scrying, Rosemary Ellen Guiley actually led us on a class of that at the Haunted America conference one year. And it's basically just to kind of help, like, get yourself into a meditative state so you can tap into your psychic self. And Adam fell asleep.
Yes.
Relatively quickly.
I was tired. It was a long day.
It was a long day. But as for me, I think I had more of an emotional, effect from it. When we started, Rosemary said, think about the person that you'd like to connect with and try to talk to. And I immediately thought of my grandma, who had recently passed at that time. And, I kind of started giggling just because my grandma was kind of silly and she said some funny things. And the more we got into, the quietness and just trying to relax and lose yourself in the mirror, all of a sudden I just started sobbing and I was crying so hard, and I cried for probably a good hour. So, perhaps it was me just being tired and focusing on how much I love my grandma, but it was an interesting experience for me. But yeah, I, in fact,
Did you sleep through the crying?
He did. He did sleep
you
through
did?
the crying.
Well, she wasn't loud. There was other people in the room, so.
Yeah. There's a black mirror right behind Adam right now. That was a good question. I'm glad you brought that up, because not a lot of people know about Black Mirror Scrying, and Rosemary actually has a book out about it. So people who are more interested in learning more about that, that's a good book to read.
So here's the other thing, as part of that with the scrying mirrors. Now, when you're staring at the mirror for so long, do you think it kind of messes with your head a little bit?
I guess I'm going to answer and you can answer. I think it can, depending on, if you focus too hard on one thing, in my opinion, I think that's when you start to get those false positives. Whereas if you relax and kind of get into a meditative state, then you might have more of an organic experience.
Right.
Jonathan?
I just think that it is an optical illusion. It's the way your mind works. It just, like I say, if you stare at the mirror, if you stare at yourself long enough in any mirror, like I say, it used to be a teenage kind of joke. Someone would say at school, go do it, it's great. And then, and you do it, and you go, and you start, just, your face starts changing in front of you, morphing around. And, I guess I'm not prepared to, put that one in the paranormal pile. I think that's just, that's just the way we're wired. And, if you stare at anything too long, it goes blurry. And if it's a face, your brain still keeps trying to interpret it until it's, it's like putting 15 photos on top of each other. They just end up being something else.
Well, we've talked about scrying before as part of meditation.
Yeah.
As a something to concentrate on in order to relax your mind. And that part you're on board with.
I'm like I say, I'm not ready to say, oh, that's impossible. I'm not that close-minded, but I at least I hope I'm not. But that particular effect of, staring into a mirror, and it's the same with, I've noticed lots of people who like to take pictures of mirrors. They walk past a mirror and pictures. And the problem I see with that is it's the same thing. It's easy to read an image from a reflection. If you look at yourself in the mirror, that's not what you look like. It's reverse. If you look at yourself in a photo and you look at yourself in a mirror, so, there's all that kind of stuff comes into play. And I took one at the Grange House, and I was convinced for about 10 minutes I'd picked up a girl's face in it. And I hadn't. But it's just the way mirrors, the background or whatever, the way the flash goes, and you're kind of setting yourself up for, so that's why personally I'll probably still do it just because it's the dumb thing, but I can't.
We'll have to do that experiment that we did at Palmer House and get back to you on that, because I'll be interested to see how that turns out.
The psychomantium.
You guys gonna YouTube that, or?
We might. That's a good idea. We never really do anything like that. So yeah, maybe we'll do the psychomantium and get back to you on that. We'll YouTube it or Facebook Live or something and see what happens. I like that. You're a thinker, Darren. That's why we like you.
We can do both. We can do both.
I mean, so that's something I just haven't seen you guys do, though, the Facebook Live stuff.
We probably should be making more videos because people like videos, and John used to do some, so maybe we'll get on board with those.
Used to do some? What do you mean used to do some?
Still
It's
does.
been a long time.
No, it hasn't. I put one out yesterday.
No, I'm talking about your talking experience.
Oh, yes. I keep saying we should do one. I got the bow.
That's fine. I got one more item for you. The other question I have is, so when you go on an investigation and you get your EVP out, or your digital voice recorder out, looking for that EVP, and you ask spirits all these kinds of questions and stuff like that, do you think in return that the spirits ask us questions and how they drill us? We drill them, but they drill us questions.
That's kind of an interesting thought. And maybe we don't hear them.
I've heard, if they are spirits, I've heard them ask each other questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the spirit box.
No, I mean, also with an EVP. When we were at Farrar, we were outside smoking, and I had it on. I was like, well, they went outside too, so let's leave it on. When we went back to review it, we heard, and you could hear they were they sounded like teenage boys, and then one said, did they see us? And the other one went, uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what in the hell was that? So.
Interesting.
Well, and there's one theory that when you pass on to the other side, that you gain all the knowledge. So maybe there's not a lot for them to question.
Right.
But I guess I've never really thought about, do they have questions for us? I would imagine. But like John said, I mean, they definitely talk to each other.
Yeah, but what would they want to know and why?
They always communicate with stuff. I mean, it's natural for me to think of that way, because you see all the ghost hunting shows, and you watch the Facebook Lives, and constantly killing questions after questions after questions. It's like, okay, well, what's the spirit aspect of that?
Yeah, you know what?
Maybe they want to acquire us and what we're thinking.
These guys are going on an investigation in a couple weeks, so maybe they can try that and ask and just say, do you have questions for us, and see what kind of response they get.
We'll be filming it, doing a bunch of stuff, so if you want videos, you'll probably be about a week after you go, please stop posting videos. I had enough already.
That's your hate. Knock it off!
So.
Yeah, well, I'm going to encourage these guys to try that. Whether it's in an EVP session or ghost box, ask, do you have any questions for us? Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see how that all turns out. I mean, it'll be a breakthrough
Yeah, well, you know...
Actually, I've got the new spirit box now that you can halfway understand live, so...
Yeah.
We should try that.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, nobody ever does say, do you have questions for us? We just constantly throw questions out, so...
What's the next lottery numbers?
Yeah. Those were great questions. All right, sir. Thank you again for your time.
Sure, no problem. Anytime. Look forward to expanding and
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Darren.
Bye-bye.
He's got a point. We never do stop and say, because maybe they miss being alive. Maybe they miss, what is it?
I think the problem is, it's not so much, it's actually, even if they ask us a question, it's us understanding what they're saying half the time, because the normal ghost box is so hard to understand as they kind of, by the time you figured it out, it's too late. Most of the stuff we catch is after the investigation's done. And it's the same with the EVP recorders. We just record. We try to do like they do on the TV. Or that might have been something I'm playing back, but if I do that, then I might miss something else. I never do the playback either. So even if they are asking us questions, the problem is, and that's like number one goal is real-time communication, and we don't get it because what we get, if we are getting anything, is either so cryptic or it's background chatter like they're talking to themselves, and if you're lucky, you'll get, for a while at least, we've been lucky where we've got sustained answers, but that never lasts more than about 3 minutes, and then it goes back to, garbage again. It's kind of like it focuses.
Well, I guess it's definitely worth, a shot, especially with your new ghost box that you can understand a little bit better.
Yep. You got one too now.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So everybody go to the Flashlight Tools at Granger. They got the new special ghost box.
We do. It's going to be fun. Oh, so back to I did my fine research. It was on Facebook I saw it, not on GoFundMe. So evidently, Mr. Moon had some accident in Denver that he suffered some type of eye injury.
By insurance.
Right. He has a fracture of the left lower orbital bone.
Yep.
It's going to require surgery, and he'll need to raise about $5,000 to cover all the out-of-pocket expenses.
It pisses me off that his idea to raise money is to ask people for it.
Mm-hmm.
You charge as much as you do for 15 fucking minutes of your time.
And $5,000 out of pocket is suddenly,
And you want people to give you their money.
Yep. I'll tell you what, technicians assist, have them give you the bloody lottery numbers.
Fucking shit. I'm sorry, that shit pisses me off.
Yeah, there was a few people that we know that have shared it.
It ain't about the money.
Yeah.
It's
never about the money, right?
I'm not opposed to helping people, but I think there's people who deserve it, and then there's people who are exploiting their
He drives all over the country. He looks better like that.
So you don't have to pay. Nice. So you don't have to.
So that's that fractured orbital will heal itself.
And look at that house behind him.
Yeah, and I was just going to say the same thing. I'm looking at this video where they show his eye.
Get alone.
And,
most people have to.
What I find funny is they say an accident in Denver, but they don't say, was it a car accident? Was it... Well, I think he got punched in the face.
I hope so.
Because he's just got a black eye, basically. And
I would bet that's what happened.
Yeah, I wouldn't be a bit surprised. I would not be a bit surprised.
Got drunk, fell on a radiator.
Well, but... I mean, even that, you would think you would see more... if he hit his head.
It's
like he straight up.
Why don't he just get a loan? I mean, come on. Mm-hmm. Does he not own anything that he can get a loan on or something?
Well, he's got that yellow power.
I mean, $5,000 is a lot of money for some people, but it's not really a huge amount of money to go get a loan for if you've got that kind of income, which he probably doesn't because he doesn't declare it, doesn't pay taxes on it. It's all cash money. Doesn't do a W-2 or a tax return, therefore can't get a loan.
But here's the other thing. I mean, any hospital is going to allow you to make payments on $5,000.
Yeah, of course it will.
So,
and then
be like the rest of the world and just make your payments on your hospital bills and call it a big deal.
And I'm sorry. As much as I dislike the man, throw together a fucking event. You're going to raise money.
Yeah,
don't just beg people for it. These are hardworking people, and a lot of these people who are probably kind enough to give you however much don't have that much.
Well, that's why I don't like him. he preys on people that are vulnerable.
Yes.
So, anybody willing to pay him that much money for a bunch of nonsense because somebody died and they're in a vulnerable point, no.
Oh, that shit just pisses me
Yeah, well.
off. All right.
Besides that, he's got another eye. God gives us two.
There's a reason why we have
Yeah,
two. In case one gets screwed up, you still got a backup plan.
That's right.
All right. Well, so tonight's on to better subjects. Tonight's
The main event.
Yes, the main event.
Whee!
Synchronicity. And I must admit that...
Funny you should say that. I was just thinking that.
Oh, see?
That you go.
I really kind of thought this was a lot more simplistic than I have since discovered that it is.
No, it's not simplistic.
No.
It's space-time.
Yes.
Time dilation.
Yes. So, Carl Jung called synchronicity basically meaningful coincidence. The definition is a simultaneous occurrence of events which appear significantly related but have no discernible cause or connection. And if you watch Hellier, everything in their life is a synchronicity.
Because everything's meaningful.
And that word starts to lose meaning
Yes.
the more that they use it.
It's I think with Hellier, Tally-ho. I think the problem with that program is it just drives me crazy. It's like they're trying to do the paranormal unifying theory of everything.
They really are.
Bigfoot, ghosts, UFOs, it's all in there.
Mothman.
I mean, it's like they've taken every bloody paranormal book in the world and tried to make it all meaningful, and the tool they're using to do it is synchronicity.
The interesting thing is they haven't really talked about ghosts much.
No, that's true. But, it's like a unifying theory that they're just trying to jam together with the glue of synchronicity, which is not what synchronicity is about.
But I'm not going to say that there aren't synchronicities in this story, because I do think that there are. Also, it's kind of up for us to define what's a synchronicity and what's not. So maybe they do think everything's a synchronicity. I have no idea. But I do think there's some involved there. I just think that for the sake of their show, as you mentioned, they're putting a lot more emphasis on it. And
because without it, there's no substance.
Right.
So that's the only if it is synchronicity, that is the only substance they have, in my opinion. Apart from an empty cat food tin.
There was that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that before you got here, I was watching like a 20-minute video on YouTube about quantum physics and synchronicity. And I said to Adam, I kind of feel like the theory of synchronicity makes people being psychic more of a reality.
Yeah, it's possible. That's why it said, I've never said it's not possible.
He probably did say that.
I've said, no, I didn't. I never have. Find it. I've said the ones I've met, up to now, didn't, and I haven't tested that many, but, I mean, the famous ones, let's put it that way. No.
So I have a lot of notes from that video. So if you hear me flipping through paper, I apologize. It's probably really annoying, but
gonna do it anyway.
It was deep. The video was fucking deep. And it's just scratching the surface. And now I kind of want to see if I can find a book on it.
Welcome to my world.
I know. So I don't even really know where to start. I guess to
Go ahead. First place to start, in my opinion, is to differentiate between synchronicity and the Bader-Meinhof effect. So, the Bader-Meinhof effect is that, for example, let's say you buy, I don't know, pick a car model. You're a car guy.
A Ford.
Ford what?
An MG Midget.
Okay, you buy an MG Midget.
Oh, God. No, you don't.
Yes.
Don't ever buy one of those.
Bright yellow.
So, you buy an MG Midget, which is a little extreme for this example, but that's fine. and most people have done it. They buy a car that, oh, that's a nice car, they buy it. Suddenly, you will notice, on the road, there are a lot more of them about.
Yes.
Because it is relevant to you, is one point. And then the other thing is, it will also reinforce whatever idea you have that, okay, I bought this car, I hope it's good. If you see a lot of them, it's reinforced. So the brain, anything relevant to it, will pick up on things that are relevant. That's what's called the Baader-Meinhof syndrome. So, you could, let's say, have a song stuck in your head about Mandy. I'm Mandy, come fly me from 10cc. And all of a sudden you'll notice that, oh, there's lots of Mandys about today. Just because your brain's working it over. And that is not synchronicity. That's Baader-Meinhof.
But if you start seeing the same numbers appearing in your life, that can be synchronicity.
It can be, but synchronicity is more things of, to me, is you look at something out of the blue, it comes, and that one thing will join 2 or 3 other things that aren't really connected until that one thing shows up.
Right.
That, to me, that's how I differentiate between. But now, I'm not saying all everything's Baader-Meinhof, but to me, I'm that could be Baader-Meinhof. For me to say, bloody hell, that's weird, is when 2 or 3 things happen that are kind of unrelated until that one thing pops up that then joins them all together.
Yeah.
To me, that's what I call.
I think it's a fine, I think can be a fine line between the two.
And they can cross.
Yeah. So, here's a synchronicity for you. So, I like to watch Dateline and those types of shows. And so, this morning, I was watching that. And the episode that was on, the more I think about it, kind of had some synchronicities to it. So, it was about this woman who lived in Las Vegas. She had taken her daughter out to learn how to drive in a school parking lot. And at some point between the school parking lot and her house, she encounters another car, and they have a road rage incident. And the lady, her name's Tammy, goes home, gets her son and a handgun, and goes back out looking for this car that they just had this encounter with. She ends up finding the car, and in the end, it follows her to her house, and she is shot and killed in her driveway. So, come to find out, the kid who killed her, his name is Eric. He is a wannabe rapper, drug dealer, and his place where he hangs out to sell drugs is this school parking lot. So he has received tons of threats from other drug dealers, basically saying that they're going to get him, they're going to do awful things to his family, they're going to kill him, whatever. So he's super paranoid, probably using drugs as well, I would imagine. So he sees this car circling around the elementary school parking lot, driving really slow, and assumes it's these people who are out to kill him. So he hides from it, and when he thinks it's gone, he calls somebody to come pick him up. Well, the kid who came and picked him up apparently had the same type of car that Tammy had recently gotten in her road rage incident with. So as Eric is being driven home, Tammy sees their car, they're in a silver car, and she starts following him and honking her horn and getting really close and kind of trying to basically get him to stop, I guess. Well, this just spikes Eric into being way more paranoid. And so he starts shooting, ends up, following Tammy to her house and shooting her outside, and they take off. Well, come to find out, Eric lived a block away from Tammy. So the reason that she found him was because he was being driven home a block from her house. And Tammy had actually been a mentor to Eric. He had eaten meals at her house, and she may or may not have purchased drugs from him. So all of these super random things ended up coming together between these two people who knew each other very closely, and it ended up having a really awful outcome. But it was just their stories intertwined in a really weird way. And I watched that this morning before we're talking about synchronicity. Synchronicity is everywhere.
It's hellier in my own house.
It is.
It's part of mind off. That's the thing. No, I think you'll. I understand synchronicity and understand how it can work, but I also have the same problem that everybody has when people say they can tell the future or synchronicity. That means everything's predetermined.
That was one thing I was concerned about too. And so if you believe in fates, then you believe things are already written and laid out. The more I watched that video this evening, the more I kind of felt like maybe synchronicity isn't quite as tight and laid out as fate. But yeah, fate suggests that everything's written out and predetermined already.
And that's where it goes to is, so the past is fixed. You cannot, even Einstein says, you cannot go back in time and kill your grandpa thing is rubbish. Because even if you did, you would create a new timeline, and it wouldn't be your grandpa you killed because your grandpa lived to have you.
Butterfly.
So you killed someone else's grandpa that
Right.
is you in a different timeline. Your past is fixed. You cannot go back and change it.
So this video suggested, I was just trying to find where I wrote it, that quantum mechanics has proven that our choices now can affect history.
Everything you do now affects which timeline you personally travel down.
Yep.
Where did I go?
So I could drive home tonight, and instead of taking left, I might take the long road and go right and go all the way around. Or I might go left. Now, because I have that possibility, both have happened.
Yeah.
Well, whichever one I do is the timeline that I'm in. And I'll keep doing it. And every time you have a choice. So here's one to think about that kind of made me think. When you die, you will have had a specific amount of breaths. Breathe in, breathe out. When you die, that number is finite. You've had so many breaths. Does that mean that when you reach that number, that's when you're going to die?
Dude, that's so fucked up. That's deep.
So if you hold your breath every now and then, do you live longer?
No, because you're still taking that
But when
amount of
you
breaths.
die, that you know that there's a finite amount of breaths you take when you die. So if you hold your breath, do you live longer?
Yes.
That is interesting.
Is that cool?
That,
I don't know.
This is why, this is why I think.
I know.
There's only so many more because I can. Then it's all over. But I mean, I guess that's the leeway you have going forward. Mm-hmm. Going backwards, you can't change. Going forwards, though, you can, because what you're doing is you are moving down a different timeline than if you've done that. So if I hold my breath, I'm going down a different timeline than if I didn't hold my breath, so I can change the amount of breaths that will be. And if I don't jump out of an airplane without a parachute, I'll have changed the number of breaths I have in my lifetime because I'll be dead pretty soon if I do that.
Right.
You see what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
Yeah, so
you're seeing echoes of what could be.
I wrote down, was the event going to happen all along and you had a psychic moment, or did your thoughts psychically manifest the event? The same kind of thing. Was it already meant to be that way, or did you make it that way? This is some deep shit.
Which argument? Say that again.
So that video talked about 7 different types of synchronicities, and in the manifestation one in particular, it said one of the things to think about with manifestation is, was the event going to happen all along and you had a psychic moment, or did your thoughts physically manifest the events? But it's the same kind of thing of like what you said with the breaths. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, there's a possible outcome.
Yeah.
And the thing is, with the story you said, that possible outcome, the odds are higher because because they lived near to each other, of all the people, he was, a choice that was a possible choice, and things like that. So all these odds add up. And there is a law of, it's called the law of large numbers or very big numbers, which means if you have a very large number, even small odds happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's the other thing to look out for is, if you're dealing with huge numbers, then something that seems like impossible, it's in an infinite universe. If there are infinite universes, if there's a chance of anything happening, it's happened. Now, if there are infinite universes, you know that you are possible because you exist in this universe. So whatever that small chance is, times infinity, there are infinite yous.
Right.
And if it's possible for you to be a millionaire, somewhere there's infinite millionaire yous. Or, anything you can conceive that is possible, it is out there somewhere. If it is infinite universe, a multiverse
And
model.
we've talked before about there's a theory that every time we're posed with a decision to make, we branch off into different dimensions where you went one way or you went the other way. I mean, we're just going to scratch the surface of this tonight by talking about it, but it's deep.
But it
And
also,
it's very philosophical as well.
but that's how I for me, this is how I look at paranormal. When I hear about a sighting of a ghost or whatever, that's kind of how I try to, how does that fit together in, we are more than some of our parts. So if we do have a soul or whatever, that fits in there somewhere. And, how does this all fit together? So you get, echoes of history. So how are we seeing those? Are they a future that could have happened that are just like wobbling around and still, coming into contact? Or, and how do you measure that? How do you determine that? That's why for me, that is still, that's still part of the paranormal because it's not proven any more than ghosts are.
Mm-hmm.
And scientists have their own paranormal even though they won't admit it. It's things that they have an idea of but can't see, can't measure. And maybe it's true. Maybe it isn't,
Well, that's why we've talked before. Quantum physics or mechanics that's where our answers are going to eventually come from.
Hopefully.
So, quantum physics is normal is the most predictable, stable, probable path that anyone can take. When reality becomes unstable, it becomes less normal and more weird, less predictable, and more surprising. That's when your improbabilities tend to come up, and they'll come in clusters. And the more improbabilities you have, the more that you'll keep seeing that. I mean, kind of like attracts like, for example, like they'll just keep happening. I'm trying to think about how I want to word this. So they used a really good example. So normal life, and I use normal in quotes because, whatever normal is. Anyway.
Hey, normal!
Right.
Yeah.
So just a normal life without anything metaphysical, paranormal, whatever, however you want to define that, would just be life with mechanical cause and effect, and they use dominoes, for example. So it's just the dominoes in a straight line falling into each other, and just that's life. But if you've got something metaphysical, again, however you want to define that turns one of those just slightly, it veers off in another direction. And so that's where our life is, and that's where those improbabilities start to happen and your synchronicities start to happen. And the cool thing about that is that there has to be something that's causing that. And whether it's a higher power, a higher being, aliens, I mean, whatever.
Or it could just be, like you mentioned earlier, the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's up to, I guess, each person to decide what they want to define that as or what they think it is. But there's something.
I'm really going to blow your mind because
Okay.
what I read.
Do it.
No, I was reading this morning, researching something else, but it fits. is, I can't remember his name now because I don't write it down, but he used to be, or he's still alive. He's a doctor. He's a PhD. But he thinks, and he used to be in charge of the Max Planck Institute in Germany. Dr. Gür, I think his name is, G-U with an umlaut, double R. He looks at quantum theory, and they know that by observing something, you change the nature of it.
Yes.
So when, things will happen, as soon as you measure it and observe it, it changes. And he's come to the conclusion that as far as humans are concerned, we have a quantum field, but because we're in physical bodies and we perceive the universe changes around us just because we're watching it and perceiving it. So, all of those things that happen that are weird are just happening because we're watching and perceiving it. And we basically, I'm not going to go all the way and say, we create our own reality or our own truth. That's not true because we have to live in it in common. We all live in the same universe. Because if I can make up whatever I'm observing, I'd be observing something totally different than you are. But it also allows for things like psychics and ghosts and stuff like that. So, I think that's interesting. And it also, with the synchronicity thing, if you can see a timeline, or an echo of a timeline, or the way timelines are because if I make a decision and you make a decision, so, okay, let's say me and you are going down, like I did the one before. Me and you are going down the road, and I decide to turn right. You decide that you want to get out of the car. Now, depending on which one, if you didn't get out of the car, me and you went off down the road together, I am perceiving that timeline.
Right.
You get out of the car and walk home, you're perceiving that timeline, but also if you're in the same one as me. So we could be splitting timelines and seeing something totally different, but that's it. We're now in separate timelines and we'll never come back together and remember the same thing.
That is
differently. See that?
No. No, I do see what you're saying, but that's perception and quantum field and how we perceive things. That is absolutely crazy.
Now the question then becomes, does our quantum field, our soul split, or do we become more godlike in that we start seeing more and more and more as the split, and we're seeing all of them, we're just experiencing them in their own little pocket? Can I get drunk now? Because my head hurts.
It's just, doesn't
it make the paranormal, though, so much more likely when you think of it that way?
Oh, absolutely.
Which is why I like thinking of it that way and not letting mainstream science go, well, we have no evidence of anything, so therefore it doesn't exist.
Right. No,
besides
it definitely...
that, we can't make money out of it.
Right. Well, it definitely makes the paranormal aspect, psychics, all that stuff more plausible, more feasible to be taken more seriously, I guess, would be if everybody would look at it from that perspective.
Well, I just wish, the real psychics would take themselves more seriously, because a lot of them, I'm sorry, and I don't mean to insult people, but some of them, I'm not, well, apart from the guy with the black eye, but, some of them think they're psychic, but they're not. And that's fine. And some of them are psychic, and some of them are just charlatans, and it muddies the waters. So, if you have that theory, how do you prove it? Mm-hmm. Which psychic do you go to?
Right. So, and I am just going to read what I wrote because I don't know how to better word it. But so I wrote, anything outside linear time can affect our life, encouraging us to make decisions different from our normal or our norm, causing improbabilities and ultimately synchronicities. So like aliens, higher beings, higher powers, otherworldly beings, however, again, you want to define that. So like attracts like, so the more they affect you, the more they could be attracted to you. So the more that we open ourselves up to these synchronicities, potentially the more you could be opened up to psychic powers, paranormal events, UFO stuff, if that's what you're into, whatever. Also, it kind of means that our dreams and reality are basically made of the same stuff. So dreams are created by our personal subconscious, where reality is caused by a collective subconscious. But so what our dreams are is lending into reality.
I hope not.
I don't know. Sometimes I hope so.
Okay. I got some terrible ones. Oh my god! No wonder there's a war in Syria. That's what happens.
But this also, kind of for your moments of deja vu, this can kind of help explain that a little bit too.
I'll say deja vu happens to me a lot.
Yeah.
Daily.
And the problem with deja vu is you can explain it in the mundane.
Yeah.
But, doesn't mean, that the other explanation could be it too. I mean, deja vu happens when your synapses just kick wrong and then you get a memory after the fact.
Oh.
It's just kind of like an exhaust backfire in your synapses. So you do something and all of a sudden the memory hits what you've just done.
Yeah.
But then it plants itself in going, oh, I remember doing that. But you get the memory after you've done it. So, that's explainable, but it's not,
So then...
I'm not going to say, because then that,
So then my question with that is that, because I'm not as smart as either one of you.
Oh my god, shut up.
No, I mean, seriously, like, I've had that moment where I'm at work and all of a sudden it hits me like, oh, deja vu, I've done this before. But then I'll think...
That's because you work on cars all day and it's the same shit.
Well, it's not.
Where it gets tricky is when you know what's going to happen next. And
that's what I'm saying. Like, and then I'll be like, oh, I've, like I remember being right here and doing right this.
And the phone's going to ring.
And then Jim's going to come out and tell me to go do this. And then he comes out the office door and is like, hey, go do this. And I'm like, yeah, I already knew that was going to happen.
That's when it stops being deja vu.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Like, I've always just chalked that up to deja vu, but...
No, that's your intuition.
I've been here before, deja vu. I've been here before. It means you do something, it's like, oh, I've done that before. When you start then saying, I know what's coming next, that stops being deja vu.
It starts being intuition,
that
which
happens
leads into
way too much. I hate it.
Maybe you're
I
psychic.
don't like it.
You might be. You might have a touch
you ever been
of it.
abducted by aliens?
I don't know. I woke up one day and my butt hurt really bad.
Oh my god. Okay, so in an effort to change the subject.
So they went straight for the brain.
Oh, they went.
So there are a lot of really interesting examples. I'm ignoring you too. There's a lot of
yes, you are.
really strange examples of synchronicity. So I'm going to read this because it's my all-time favorite. So it's the synchronicities between Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. I'm sure you both have seen this before.
Yep.
So Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846. Kennedy was elected to Congress in 1946. Lincoln was elected president in 1860. Kennedy was elected president in 1960. The names Lincoln and Kennedy each contain 7 letters. Both were particularly concerned with civil rights. Both wives lost their children while living in the White House. Both presidents were shot on a Friday. Both were shot in the head. Lincoln's secretary, Kennedy, warned him not to go to the theater. Kennedy's secretary, Lincoln, warned him not to go to Dallas. Both were assassinated by Southerners. Both were succeeded by Southerners. Both successors were named Johnson. Andrew Johnson, who succeeded Lincoln, was born in 1808. Lyndon Johnson, who succeeded Kennedy, was born in 1908. John Wilkes Booth was born in 1839. Lee Harvey Oswald was born in 1939. Both assassins were known by their 3 names. Both names were comprised of 15 letters. Booth ran from the theater and was caught in a warehouse. Oswald ran from a warehouse and was caught in a theater. Booth and Oswald were assassinated before their trials. So much there.
Yep.
But at the same time, you can say that we're looking for those 2. I get that.
But that's an awful lot. I mean, that's an awful lot to be like, oh, okay. If you just looked for that, but...
No, but once again, you go to the law of big numbers. I mean, yes, there are a lot of similarities. But if I sat there and listed the differences, we'd be here till next month.
Oh, for sure.
So,
well, of course.
Yeah. So it's the law of big numbers. And I'm not saying it's not synchronicity. I'm just saying you have to be very, very careful. To me, synchronicity impresses me when, if you'd had that information 2 days before and someone had said, this is what's going to happen, then to me that's a resonance and that's synchronicity telling you something.
But I have an example of that as well.
That's good.
And there's a million examples. These are just some I came across. So, Edgar Allan Poe wrote one novel, and it was called The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket. It is about a crew hand who is on a boat with 3 other people, so 4 total, and their ship ends up sinking, and everybody ends up killing the crew hand and eating him to stay alive.
Dum dum.
In the book, the character's name was Richard something. I'll tell you in 2 seconds. Richard Parker was the character's name. Fast forward 46 years, I think it is, and a yacht leaves, I think, from England going to Sydney, Australia, if memory serves correctly. And on it is a crew hand named Richard Parker. They get out to sea. The yacht sinks. 4 of them make it to a lifeboat, including Mr. Parker, and he is killed by the crew and eaten so they can stay alive.
Do you know what that tells me?
Poe knew he could predict the future.
No. I'm gonna make a Richard Parker flavored ice cream because obviously it's
Oh my god, that's awful!
obviously it's a popular flavor. No, that is. I mean, there are lots of. See, that's the ones that intrigue me.
Yeah.
Not going back and cherry picking. Oh, look, that looks. And you know, people are reaching when they say, "Well, both their names have 15 letters." To me, that's a flag.
Well, if you're
Someone's
a
been digging.
numerologist, that is probably
But that's
more
still-
meaningful. Another one, there was a book called The Wreck of the Titan that almost to a T was a ship that mirrored the Titanic. Obviously, it's about a shipwreck. 14 years later, the Titanic is built. Again, the similarities between the boats were huge. Titanic ends up getting hit in the same side that the Titan did in the book. And I mean, it's like whoever wrote The Wreck of the Titan saw what was going to happen to the Titanic.
Mhm.
And I mean, and you've got the Titan and the Titanic. They're very close. That's another good one too.
It is.
I've never
I mean,
read
the
Wreck of
Titan to the Titanic. I don't know. It's probably someone that. I mean, the Titanic wasn't built in.
No.
4 months or whatever it was, or 4 years even. I think it took a long time to build it.
I'm sure it did.
Mm-hmm.
Well, plus they had 2 sister ships, which also sank. So
The Queen Mary is related somehow.
no, can't be. She's still floating.
She is.
Well,
In Long Beach.
Yeah.
She's lovely.
Who's the what was it? The Olympic? The Olympic Titanic, the Olympic, and can't remember the other one, but that got sunk as like a hospital ship, a mine or something. Anyway, I digress.
so then it begs the question when you talk about these stories. Are they just, for lack of a better word, synchronicity or coincidence, or is this someone put it out there so now it happened?
Right.
You mean cause and effect?
Well, yeah,
It's
like
the story
my
of
mind
the
thought
cause.
about it, so now it happened.
And that is the philosophical debate that is synchronicity.
Right, but it scares me for the paranormal because I think about, I know, John, you're big for, I don't really want to know a lot about the narrative.
No.
I don't want to know a lot
Because it will
about,
influence me. So
Right.
in that way,
and then I think to myself, all of these people who, I got the name Susan, at so-and-so, and then they write that down, and then all of a sudden all these other people got the name Susan.
they've
Well,
created Susan.
that's what I
Never
mean.
really-
Well,
I
and we
mean,
talked about that Canadian experiment where
Yeah.
they created Philip, the Philip
created,
experiment.
Yeah, they created him. But did they?
Right.
Because here's the thing, the only people that got the name Susan are the only ones that have seen her, or at least say they've seen her and heard her. So did they really create her,
Right.
or are they just following along each other's story and backing each other up?
Exactly.
God damn it.
That's the thing. What?
Everything keeps getting harder.
That's because I'm in the room.
Yeah. Oh my God!
I have that effect on people.
Okay.
No!
Jesus.
Wait a second. It took me,
meant.
first of all, it took me way too long to get that. And I think you didn't mean it that way, but Sarah sure as hell took it that way.
That is darn well
because
how he meant that.
She's perverted.
Whatever.
She's a perv. Sarah's a
Oh my
perv.
God.
You
Least
do
perverted person in this
have the
room.
thoughts first, and then we play along to cover the fact that that's
Not
Right.
a
That's
We're trying to
synchronicity.
make you seem like the princess that you want to be.
I am.
But it's not true, because
Whatever.
really most of the bad things that happen around here are
Nope.
because you
That's
went
not
the
even
wrong
a
direction.
true thing. Whatever.
Like, why do women want to be princesses? Don't they watch Disney? Bad
Do you know
things
what-
happen to
Do
princesses.
you know what my Sarah means? It's Hebrew for princess. I'm
Is it?
literally a princess. And you know what? My middle name is Diane, and that means goddess.
Your princess goddess.
Yes.
Ah,
I don't know what Hyatt
Literally.
means in another language, but we should probably look that
Probably
up.
something magical. So
I think
other...
my name. My
I-
name means old fucker or something like
Oh my
that.
Okay, I'm going back to synchronicities.
Yes.
Because this is going to go way off track.
Yep.
So there are tons of stories of people missing their flights. Like a lot of people missed their flight on 9/11 and should have died in one of those crashes and didn't. An example of that was Tony Tucker, who was a boxer, I think in the 80s. Ended up winning this fight, getting a bunch of money in Poland, and was at the airport waiting for his dad and ended up missing his flight back to Grand Rapids. So they took the next flight, and when they got home, his family literally thought they were seeing a ghost because the flight Tony Tucker should have been on crashed and everybody died. So there's tons of stories like that. Also synchronicity. And is there a difference between good luck and synchronicities? I guess it depends on the person and the definition.
Depends on the line. To me, I look at it, once again, law of very large numbers. I mean, how many people were flying that day?
Yep.
You know, and how many got bumped, and how many cancelled.
Yeah.
It's very hard. It's very hard to pick a, you can pick one and go, oh my God, what are the chances? But then when you pull out and look at the whole picture, you go, well, actually the chances that somebody was going to do that are pretty high. We've just narrowed in on this one. That's where for me, that's where I'm careful before I go,
But the improbability for Tony Tucker personally,
it's got to be someone.
no, but I'm saying, like, as a person, the improbabilities are
Oh,
a
he's
lot,
going to dwell on it.
Yeah, from
are a
his...
lot different than
Yeah.
society as a whole. So one of the things that I did think was funny in this video, and I'll post the video because I thought it was really interesting and did a really good job of explaining synchronicity. And like I said, there were 7 different kinds. So the last one that they talked about was artificial syncs. And this one made me laugh because I thought of Hellier right away. So staged to make you think it's a sign from the universe, but really is a ploy to negatively affect your thoughts and decisions. It's often influenced by, they suggested, demonic beings or negative aliens or something to that effect. So the example they gave was a girl gives you a book by a guru. A friend from a past that you hadn't heard from for years suddenly just reaches out and mentions the same guru. And then that night you go to bed and there's a petal on your pillow from the same type of flower the guru is posing with on the cover. So now you think, okay, the universe is pointing me towards this guru. Well, in reality, somebody is giving you these artificial syncs to make you think that. So if your intuition differs from the signs that you're being given, that can be a sign of an artificial sync. But I started thinking back to how Hellier got started.
That's extremely paranoid.
It is, but I started thinking back to how Hellier got started.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of fits this. This random person who Greg hasn't heard from in such a long time, all of a sudden reaches back out. And it talked about these artificial syncs often play on the ego and wishful thinking.
Oh, yeah.
And that is Hellier to a T. I mean, like,
I'm not saying that somebody or something negatively started this ball rolling, but, if you're going to think that Hellier is based solely on synchronicities, this could fit in there.
I personally believe that there is a lot less synchronicity than there is some embellishment.
Oh, I would agree.
So you can tell the story and then juggle the timeline, and then it all fits. It's kind of like, ooh.
And at what point...
Kind of like picking a lock. You get the tumblers in the right place just by jiggling them.
And at what point do all those synchronicities start just becoming the norm?
If they are... In the case of Hellier,
Yeah.
if they are synchronicities and not embellishments.
Yeah.
Right.
So... I never saw anything there that I would have thought was out of order because they were... Alright, the emails were weird. What annoyed me was, it took them, 2 years and travelling halfway across the country to actually think about, wait a minute, let's look at the IP address of those emails. That to me is an embellishment. Why would you think about it then and not at the beginning? That's...
The one place I did see a synchronicity was the fact that they said one of them happened to be reading the article about the goblins on the same day Greg got the email. So in my opinion, that is a synchronicity. But you're right. They play everything into that.
And I'm not saying there aren't good cases of that kind of thing happening. I'm a lot more skeptic than most people that are in this field. It's just when I see it happening retroactively into the story, being blended into a story, I start to wonder, hang on a minute. When I see where someone does a documentary on something, for example, if they did Hellier, and they said, oh, we were looking into this, that, and the other, and then we know that they filmed the second one, and this crap started to really happen, then that would take my attention. Doing it, and then retroactively trying to make it all fit, which a lot of it doesn't fit, I'll be honest with you. And if, people don't believe me, we'll sit down and do a live, let's watch it as it happens, one of those things, and I'll sit there and pick it apart. Because a lot of things just do not add up, and I don't think it could have happened at least in the chronological order they're trying to say it did. They're fudging a lot.
Well, and I will tell you... And
the cat food can at the end just broke it for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to see a can. I saw a face on a can. And it's a brand new, old, empty... Well, actually, it's a brand new empty Purina can.
Yeah, it's not...
It wasn't even rusty.
Yeah, he said it was rusty with holes. And
And who take the form of a bloody Purina
cat chow?
Why would I thought we were doing intelligent beings were trying to influence them, not idiots.
It's season 1 of episode 2. No, let's try that again. Season 2, episode 1. And I won't give too much away here, but they talk about some names that they were getting during the Estes method that they realize the importance of later on. And again, calling that a synchronicity because that's what they do. Excuse me. That's what they do. One thing, and I don't want to make this all about Hellier and tear it apart, but one thing that really irritated me about that was they never, at least I haven't seen, where they've released the audio from that Estes method so we can hear what he was actually hearing, because otherwise it's just him saying these words and I'm left to just believe that that's what's happening and not that they've rehearsed this somehow or he just knows these are the words. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's the problem though. Once you get into, they might have had the first one. They might have gone into it saying, "Oh look, this was all weird. Let's do a documentary." The problem with once you get into that part of, let's call it, paranormal research. Once you get into that, okay, we're on Amazon, we've got a documentary, we've got to deliver X amount of episodes. Oh bugger, look, we've got a second season. What do we do? And then I think you'll see, you have to produce something, and that's not investigation. That's kind of like, when you watch the TV shows and the cops are like, oh, the mayor's on this one, we've got to get a conviction.
Yeah.
You can't make an investigation go any bloody quicker than it's going.
Exactly.
Right.
So, that's where I'm like, I sorry, it flows up. throws up red flags.
Yeah.
So I will scrutinize it a lot more than I normally would, just because I know they have an agenda and a timeline.
Well, I must say, I am glad that you picked this topic.
It's good, isn't it?
It is, and I do want to read more about it, and I hope our listeners will as well. So instead of a picture of the week, I just want a product of the week. So while I was looking into Synchronicities...
It's a can of Purina.
No.
We're selling cat chow.
While I was looking into these Synchronicities, one thing that came to my mind, especially when they were talking about manifestations, was the wishing machine. Have you seen this? Joshua P. Warren's The Wishing Machine.
Stop. You can print them out now. They got PDFs.
Yes.
You can just print them out.
If you want a physical box, it's $195. You can
just
order
get the
a physical
PDF.
box.
They work just as well.
Yes.
Print them out.
So the theory behind it is that this box is tuned specifically for you, and you write your wish on a piece of paper and hold it over one side of the box and twist these knobs or do something else on the other side, and
make it end.
It will help your wish manifest. And Joshua P. Warren, which I've read his books, like he just seems very intelligent, and it shocked me that he is all in on this. But he is.
I will actually, if you don't mind, on the See Paranormal.
How about Seeking the Paranormal?
Seeking the Paranormal, I'm sorry. I meant to say it and then cut the word off. It's this microphone. There's a guy, I forgot his name now. I'm terrible with names. I showed you.
Yes, you showed me the video. It's absolutely
He did
hilarious.
a video of testing the wishing machine. And this guy, I mean, he's a total skeptic, and I watch him because A, he's funny, and B, he keeps me grounded as far as, what electronics can do and can't do, So, but he did the wishing machine. And it's one of the funniest videos I've seen in a while.
That's fair. So we'll put up Joshua's video, and then we'll put that one up too, so people can make up their own mind. But yes, you can own a wishing box for $195.
He's Nordic. He's got a cute accent.
Great.
Yeah, he is funny, and you can watch a lot of his videos on different things.
All right.
They're entertaining.
All right, anything else you want to add before we shut up shop?
This was too deep. I need Tylenol.
Well, I'm sorry, but I enjoy doing these. Actually, I am trying to put together a video for Phantom Science. I've had 3 run-ups at it at the moment, and I'm kind of getting there. But it's a monologue of me droning on about, if we're going to go look for ghosts, we need to think about what they are. So I go into, start off, why do we even have the idea of life after death? It's not a very good survival trait. Even Neanderthals were burying stuff way back when with bodies, so what gave them the idea that they were going anywhere? Mm-hmm. So it starts like that, and it will go through. So it's, if you are into the deeper stuff that gives me a headache, hopefully within the week I'll have that finished and posted. So, and then you can listen to me drone on and go, oh my god, this guy's an idiot.
We will not. But be sure that you subscribe to Phantom Science on YouTube. And I think it's the top right-hand corner of each one is a little eye. If you click on that, there's a question that you can answer.
Yes, I'm trying to make them interactive.
Feedback. Yeah, I like it.
A little more interactive.
As much as I love our listeners and appreciate them, they don't always tend to have a lot of opinions on things, but that's okay. We still love you.
Give us your opinions now.
Yeah.
We're going to start getting forceful.
Or we will take them from you.
That's right. We need feedback.
If you've got suggestions for topics, we'd love that too.
Otherwise, you get the deep stuff again.
Dude, wanted my minor to be in philosophy, and so I'm always up for this stuff.
Did you though?
I did.
That's philosophy. Did you really?
I did.
Maybe you did. You just didn't know. Can you prove you didn't?
Dear Lord. So if you want to catch up with John these days, remember it is phantomscience.net. Is it science, no S at the end?
Yep.
Okay, phantomscience.net.
That would be more than one science.
It would, but there are a lot of sciences.
There's one overall science.
Okay. Philosophical discussion for later as well. And of course, Phantom Science is on the Facebook and the YouTube as well. If you want to catch up with me, you can catch me on
Facebook and Twitter. Facebook mostly. I'm not a very good tweeter. So Facebook at C Paranormal Sarah. It's SEE Paranormal Sarah with an H. And of course, all three of us can be found at Seeking the Paranormal on Facebook and Twitter as well.
The Twitter.
All right, that is going to do it for us tonight. As always, keep seeking the paranormal, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening, and be sure to follow Seeking the Paranormal on Facebook at Seeking the Paranormal, and also on Twitter at Seeking the P.